Good evening. You know, a mentor of mine told me that when you're asked to give brief remarks, to make them brief or funny, and I'm not funny, so they're going to be really brief. My name is Greg Valdivino. I'm the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to this wonderful event. Before I introduce our first speaker, though, I want to thank JVS for giving us the opportunity to co-host this event, as we're excited to meet our new friends and make them into Kansas Cityans. Can I get an applause for that? So welcome. To stay on time, we're going to go ahead and start with our first speaker, and I'd like to introduce Hillary Cohen-Singer. She began her career in the nonprofit leadership in New York City, supporting education, coalition building, and advocacy efforts across religious and ethnic communities. Since returning to Kansas City, her native Kansas City, almost 14 years ago, she has served as executive director at Jewish Vocational Services, working to make Kansas City more welcoming place for refugees and immigrants, and providing holistic services to our newest neighbors to help them succeed. She continues to work to build bridges across diverse communities as a member of the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom Muslim Jewish Women's Dialogue Group and the University Health Ethics Commission. Please welcome Hillary Singer.
Good evening. I am so delighted that you all have joined us tonight to hear from these inspiring individuals. For those of you who are not familiar with JVS, we are celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. Right? We were founded in 1949 by our local Jewish community to provide support to Holocaust survivors who were making their way into Kansas City after World War II. So we were founded out of a particular historical moment by a specific segment of our community. And when that need subsided, we could have stopped, but we didn't. What I find really powerful about JVS is that we continued the work by broadening our circle of concern, supporting anyone from anywhere who face persecution because of who they are. And that is the core of JVS today, an organization that is rooted in Jewish history and values, that provides a comprehensive array of services to refugees and immigrants from all over the world, who are seeking safety and security and a chance to build a new life in Kansas City. Each year, we support thousands of new Americans in their quest to learn how to live in the United States. In securing housing, no small task, in this market to find something that is safe and accessible and affordable. In healthcare, whether it is connecting people to primary care, helping people navigate chronic health issues, or providing therapy to address the trauma from wartime experiences. We work on education, enrolling children in school, many for the first time in their lives, helping adults with everything from learning how to open a bank account to getting overseas college transcripts accessible and accepted. And we work on employment, from your first job to meet basic needs to developing a career path for future and growth. Overwhelmingly, with the help of our stellar team, the folks that we work with triumph. They meet all of the goals that they set out for themselves and for their families. And overwhelmingly, we as a community are enriched by the diversity of their talents, their perspectives, their strengths that they bring with them. And we are enriched by we are enriched as individuals as we get to know them and their stories. You're going to hear one of those stories tonight. And in many ways, there is not another story like it in the world. But one of the things that I hope you will take away this evening, apart from really jaw-dropping awe at the bravery and tenacity and heart of these two men that you're about to hear from. In some ways, this story is the story of all of the immigrants that we welcome, regardless of where they're from or what path they took to get here, right? They have experienced untenable, life-threatening circumstances. They've made a decision to flee that will radically and forever change their lives. And they come here for a warm welcome, human to human, and the hope of a brighter future ahead. So that we can get to that story, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to our guests for this evening. Diana Kander will serve as our moderator. A refugee from Soviet Ukraine at the age of 8, Diana Kander and her parents were resettled in Kansas City through JVS. A serial entrepreneur, Diana had launched and sold millions of dollars worth of products and services by her early 30s. Today, she is an innovation consultant, curiosity keynote speaker, and New York Times bestselling author whose books have been taught in over 100 universities. Jason Kander is an Afghanistan veteran, a former Missouri Secretary of State, and a guy who kind of ran for president for a minute. Today, he is the president of National Expansion at Veterans Community Project, the co-host of the Majority 54 podcast, a best-selling author, the founder of Afghan Rescue Project, a men's amateur baseball player, as well as a Little League coach. Raheem Rauffi held various banking positions in Afghanistan, including as the director of payroll for the U.S. Embassy and other multinational organizations. At great personal risk, he refused to comply with Taliban demands to turn over the list of Afghans who had served the U.S.-led coalition. Since escaping Afghanistan with his family, he has spent the past 2 years assisting the Afghan Rescue Project as a coordinator of Afghan refugees in Albania. He and his family were resettled here in Kansas City by JVS this past summer. Welcome, Raheem.
Hillary, thank you so much for that introduction. Show of hands, how many people here have read the article in the Kansas City Star or know the story? Can you raise your hands? Okay, well, it's like 50% of the room. So I think that for the sake of the other 50%, just so that they know what we're talking about, we could do like a basic introduction to the story that brought us here today. So I'm going to start with Jason, and then Raheem, you'll tell your side of it, which the Kansas City article didn't include, so already we're going to get into some great stuff. On the screens on either side is my cell phone number, so if you don't have a question and just want to be friends, that's how we're going to do it. And if you have a question at any time throughout our conversation today, you just text that number and I will see it. So, Jason, please tell us kind of the backstory.
I will. Thank you, Diana. Let's start with thank you to JVS, without whom not only this event, but most of what's happening here would not be possible. So can we thank them and Hillary? The backstory starts with the fact that there were a lot of people like myself who served in Afghanistan, and while we were serving there, worked with Afghans, worked with local nationals, and in doing so, built really strong relationships. And for me personally, that was my translator, Salam Rauffi, who's Raheem's uncle. And then in August of 2021, when the United States finally ended a 20-year war in Afghanistan, there were unfortunately a lot of people who were left behind, people who had done that work and had stood up for democracy, really stood up next to the United States in a major way, which is a perfectly lethal risk to take in Afghanistan, who that promise was not kept to. The promise that was both implied and explicit to them, which was, if you will put your life on the line for us, if at any point it comes to a place where the Taliban comes back, you can count on us, that we're gonna have your back. And unfortunately, and this is not a political comment, this is just what happened, unfortunately, there were a lot of people who were still there, like tens of thousands, and there are still tens of thousands. And for a lot of us who watched I want to give credit, the largest humanitarian airlift in human history that happened in August of 2021, it was bittersweet because there were great stories, there were inspiring stories that meant a lot, and in a lot of ways could make you feel really good that your country would do that. But on the other hand, if you had spent, as myself and a few other vets did, weeks trying to get people into that airport and were unsuccessful, then it really left you with a truly terrible feeling. And at that point, I'd say about 2 weeks before that, Salam Rauffi, my translator, reached out to me and said that his nephew was still there and that his nephew had done things to help the United States and to protect democracy, and that the Taliban were after him. I made contact with Raheem, and then we started at first trying to get into the airport in Kabul. We were unsuccessful, but to Raheem's credit, even when I said to him, it would be a lot easier if it was just you and your wife and your kids, what Raheem said was, everybody is in danger because of me, so I can't leave without everyone. And so it had to be all of them. And as a result, when we got to the end of August and all the planes left, it was particularly hopeless. I'm going to yada yada some really important stuff that I'm sure we'll get into, which is that's when the Rauffis had to put a lot of faith, just have a lot of faith, period, in the idea that they could expose themselves, they could go outside their home and not only do that, but go across the entire country, try to navigate past Taliban checkpoints, talk their way through a Taliban checkpoint at one point, and then get to this city up north and basically repeatedly evade the Taliban. And while a bunch of us on the other side of the world were, unbeknownst to them, piecing together a very large operation to try and get a lot of people out. It started with the Rauffi family, but then a lot of other vets came with their own families, and yada, yada, yada. We staged a wedding with 383 people, and the Taliban almost crashed the wedding, but ultimately they had another wedding date that they had to go to, thankfully. And just like those of you who saw the article said, they had to, I think probably the scariest part, and I'll let Raheem speak to it, is they had to take a piece of paper that said, here's who I am, and inside the airport walk straight up to the Taliban several times and hand that to the Taliban in the hopes and in the faith that we had actually backed the Taliban into a position where we had to let them get on a plane. Probably the last thing, am I over my 4 minutes that you allotted? Okay. I don't have a lot of practice telling this story, and so it gets a little long. The best way for me to be helpful in framing this conversation, I think, is to explain how the morbid game worked at that moment in Afghanistan. And that is to say that if you're wanted by the Taliban, if the Taliban want to find you, and they do, there's no rules. They're the Taliban, they're in charge. They can do anything, and they'll do the worst possible thing. The game that we were sort of engaged in was this really awful game of capture the flag, which is to say, if the Taliban doesn't find you until you present inside an airport, and you are on a list sent to the Taliban by another country, a list of people who have been visa cleared to get on this one flight, then meaning, and you've been granted, that flight has been granted landing rights in another country, what that means is that you are expected in another country. Now, even if you're on that list, if they find you before you get inside the airport and present to them, well, then that's game over, and you're not going to capture the flag. But so the only way to capture the flag and get out of the country, hopefully, if the Taliban followed this rule that we were expecting them to follow, was on our side, for us to find a nation that would allow these folks to land and would send a list to the Taliban of them and make them all visa cleared. That was really the only way to do it. And so that's what the whole charade with the wedding and everything was about, because they couldn't just take a bunch of Ubers to the airport and show up. We had to put everybody who was wanted by the Taliban in one place and then move them in mass, and we had to figure out how to get somebody to fly an airplane into Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. So it sounds easy, but it was pretty hard. So with that,
Okay.
I'm not the star of this story. I want to be clear. Like, I was in no physical danger at any point, and what they did and the risks that they had to take are unimaginable and immeasurable from my perspective. So.
Well, let's hear that introduction, Raheem. Can you kind of tell us from your uncle telling you about somebody that could help from America and, you know, the short story of you coming here?
All right, thank you, Diana, and I want to thank GVS for such a nice evening and inviting such a great personalities and everyone here, and also my entire family. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I don't know
Start with when I called.
I don't know from where to start, yeah. But of course, it was something like, I can name it Mission Impossible. Someone called me from miles away, named Jason Kander, and my uncle told me that someone is going to call you. And when there was no hope for me, and I was sending email to everywhere where I was working, to US Embassy, to all organizations that I was working with, but there was no response for me. Like after 6 years, when I came back to my country and thinking that now everything is safe, but unfortunately, within 15 days, I just was stuck among Taliban. So yep, that was something like really, I don't know how to say, but I was just looking for a small green light for saving our life. So on that time, I just started talking with Jason Kander, and he said, okay, let's start, let's do it. And that was the starting of what happened, and we would, he just asked me for the all documents and whatever I had, so I just sent them, and my uncle said, okay, he's the only one, he can do it. Then yep, start, and as Jason said, it took like almost 2 years till we get everything done, and me and my entire family. Now we are safe, and we are here among you all. And all the credit goes like to Jason and those who all help us in this way. Yep. Thank you so much.
So to clarify, when he says 2 years, it's because they were actually, the wedding party, which is what we call it, actually flew out on September 24th, in the evening of September 24th, 2021, to Albania, and then spent 2 years with us, then just lobbying the U.S. government to bring them here.
So, Jason, you were from Kansas City. You were trying to rent facilities in Afghanistan, coordinate security, food delivery, transportation, rent an airliner, negotiate with Albania for landing rights, and at the whole time you were like telling a very large group of people of where to go and potentially putting them at more risk if it didn't work. So, like, what were you thinking? Like,
She asked me that a lot at the time.
how did you, like, where does it come from that you thought this could work?
Where do you? I want to know what you think
No,
is the
I'm
answer.
interested.
I think that I have an irrational self-confidence gifted to me by my parents who are here, and to whatever extent I able to achieve anything, it's usually because I just think well, that and combined with like at first I remember a conversation we had where Raheem and I started talking in mid-August. The deadline was August 31st. And I said at one point to you, I said, I got to try to do this for a couple weeks. I said, chances are it won't work, but I'm going to do everything I can for a couple weeks. And then after that, there won't be anything we can do. And Diana said, well, I know you. And she was like, if it doesn't work in 2 weeks, you're not going to stop. But at the time, that I thought, well, of course I will, because once there's no American presence there, what am I going to do? So really, we had a conversation the night, so it was morning here, but it was like just after midnight on August 31st when the last planes flew out. And so I actually found out the last planes had left because Raheem called me, and they were flying over his house. And I remember, it's like the first part where I'm going to have to get through it without crying. I remember you said to me, you said that there's no hope now, and we talked about your daughters. You want to start? Because I'm going to cry. You go ahead. Okay. And I remember as I said this thinking, I should not say this. This makes no sense. And I remember I said, it doesn't matter how long it takes, we'll get it done. So I just kind of, I just kind of put myself in a box, I guess. And then, but we had become so close already that it just felt like family, and I wasn't going to leave him behind. So I don't know how is the answer. And I didn't do it. Like, it was me and so many other people. Like, there were so many other people that came out of the woodwork. Like, I didn't know, I don't know any Afghan wedding planners. But another guy I found did, and and stuff like that. So I was not friends with the head of the Afghan national airline, but another guy was, and that's how anything like this happens. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but that's how. Yeah.
Raheem, from your perspective, this wasn't, when you read it in the paper, it's like, this happened and then this happened and then they were out and it was great. And that's not how it happened. And
it's not how you remember it?
That's not how I remember it. And you were in Mazar-e Sharif, and Jason was like, you got to leave there, you got to come to Kabul, because that's where we're going to get you out. And how long is that drive? It's like 8 hours?
On that time, that was the first time when Taliban just take over, I leave everything and went to Mazar-e Sharif. And when I talked with Jason, he says, you should come back and to Kabul.
So just if you're following, he made the smart decision, got out of Kabul, went to Mazar-e Sharif, which was still dangerous, but a little bit safer. And then I call, and I'm like, you got to go back.
Yeah.
No, it gets better.
And yes.
So you went?
Hold on. And then what happened?
Yeah, then I said, okay.
To his credit, that is what he said, yeah.
This was the only answer that, okay, let's do it. So we just moved back to Kabul. It took us like 11 hours by road because there was some problem, but normally it's like 8 to 10 hours.
Some problem was the Taliban had taken over the country.
Yeah. So, so now on that time, we back to Kabul and waiting for Jason to say when to move, who is going to come. Like, nothing was clear, but whatever command was from Jason's side, I said, okay, let's do it.
Okay, so Jason called, you went from Kabul to Mazar-e Sharif. Jason told you to go back to Kabul, where it was more dangerous. Then he called and he said, Kabul's not going to work.
Can I defend myself?
No, hold on. It's not your question.
It's not my turn? Okay.
Yeah. Then he said, Kabul's not going to work. We're going to need you to go to Mazar-e Sharif. And with like the whole family, it's not just Raheem. It is all 12 of them at the time. So my question is, what were you thinking? Like, we joked in our house that you were thinking, like, this rescuing could be going better. What are these people, like, what kind of experience do these people have rescuing? Because it could be better.
That was like, that time was very tough think about something else. We were just seeking for something better to happen. Everything was, even a single message was a good news. Oh, there's a message from Jason. He said, okay, we are working, we are doing. And it was 1 o'clock at night. He just messaged me and said, you need to go back to Mazar. Kabul is not working. Everyone was sleeping, my entire family, only like me and my brother, Najim, my younger brother. I just called him and said, Najim, come, we have to go back. He just looked at me and said, okay. There was everything okay. I said, okay. So we just told mom that we are going back. Make everyone ready. So on that time, I was thinking, hey, what will happen? How you go in this time? It's late night, and you just go out. So we travel like around 30 minutes away from my place to like a bus stop or bus station. We took two minivans, and we said someone from our family. She passed away, which is mom's sister, and we have to.
This is the cover story that
Yeah,
you're using.
we have to go at this time back to like Mazar Sharif. So we rent two minivan and come back. At 2 o'clock we move back to Mazar. Then
The Taliban stopped you on the way.
yes, yeah. When it was 2:30 at night, when our first call with Najim and Farhad and their wives, they just went inside the pump station. My car with mom and my wife and my kids. We just crossed the main road that suddenly the Taliban stopped the car. Oh my God. They was armed and their faces were covered. And they said, yeah, come out. They were just shouting that, come out. I said, okay. What happened on that time? I was not expecting this. Still, there was a lot of information in my mobile, especially the map which Jason sent me that, hey, when you're like moving to Mazar, be careful, this is the checkpoints.
I had a 2-week-old
Yeah.
map that I gotten from where you would expect I would get that from. I get it from CIA people, it doesn't matter. And it was a 2-week-old map of where we thought the Taliban checkpoints were. It was apparently slightly off. So again, a lot of faith he had to have in, what this guy he'd never met was sending him.
So I just threw my mobile to my mom and said, Mom, everyone was shocked and they were stuck. I just I said, just take my mobile. I said, I'm going down. So on that time, my kids, they start like shouting and crying. So me and driver, we just go out and they search. And oh my God, that was the scariest time. Everything was possible. But when the kids and they start crying, then when they heard, they said, you have family? I said, yeah. Where are you going? I said, this happened with my family. So we have to go to Mazar Sharif at this time. Someone passed away. That was the only lie that, on that time, which was right, to save our lives. So they said, they searched me and the driver, and fortunately, because of the kids was just crying, they let us go. And after that time, it took us around 15 to 13 hours. Everything was off, my mobile was turned off, and after 13 or 14 hours, it was around 4 o'clock Afghanistan time. I just called Jason, and when I turned on, I received this text message, and I replied that I am back to Mazar. Now what?
And I said, hide.
And Jason said, hide.
Yeah.
I said, I'm in the car.
Yeah. I said, hide, because now I got to make up the next part of this plan. Can I defend why they went back and forth real quick? Can I explain?
No, there's clearly a reason for it. You weren't.
No,
Yeah.
there's a reason. It doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah. Raheem, what were you telling yourself the whole time? Like, you're clearly putting your family in danger. You're listening to a stranger from across the world. What were you saying to yourself? Like, what were you balancing between, like, listening to Jason? What's on the other side that you're telling yourself?
Like, to be honest, like, internally, I was destroyed completely. But as I was the only, like, hope of Muslims is always Allah, which we never leave that hope. But on that time, I was their only hope. And when I was, whatever they hear from me, that was right for them on that time. So internally, I was completely destroyed, but I was never showing my real face and what was going on with me internally to my family. And I was just laughing and said, hey, there's an Indian movie, it says all is well. It means everything is all right. It's good. It's fine. Everything will be fine. So this was my only word. Okay for Jason, and everything will be okay, all is right to my family. And I was just showing, like, I was covering my face with another mask and showing them that, hey, I don't care. Everything is okay. We will be safe. Everything is all right. So that was my only answer, and I was giving them hope. It's going to happen.
But why?
Yep.
What was waiting on the other side of it not happening?
It was clear. Just to go around, play hide and seek with Taliban. That was it. Finally, they would find us again. Because they make me leave my country in 2016 because of the information and that I had, and also the place which I was working, and because of that, they make me leave my country in 2016 while Taliban was not in control over the Afghanistan. But now all the government was belong to Taliban. So my my future was clear, and because of me, even my entire family, for sure. You know, everyone that Taliban, what can they do? It's people who were they were looking for, and the people who helped U.S. military troops and armies. It was clear for everyone.
Yeah.
They would not let them alive. That's it.
What is it? I'm just curious. What is it about Jason, like, that you think made such a close friendship, and then, like, now a family relationship? Like, what is it that made you trust him?
I don't know. It was like
No
unknown.
choice.
The first thing, to be honest, there was no other option. When you have only one option, then you have only one switch to turn it on and off. That's it.
But let me say something.
But there was a feeling from inside that this is the right person.
But what I want to make clear, though, is like, and this is not a judgment of any of these people, but there are a lot of people, tens of thousands of people, who were called by somebody, who somebody may have reached out to try to help, who are still in Afghanistan, who made the perfectly reasonable decision that the only way to be safe is to stay here, is to stay in hiding, is not to take that leap of faith, to expose themselves and to be out on the road and to go where they're told to go. And so that's why whenever I talk about this, I'm like really clear, like all of the heroism was on that side, because they had to be so dedicated to living that they were willing to risk their lives for it.
Yeah, because my future was clear for me. It was not working that play, seek, and hide with Taliban. Anyhow, they would find you. So the only option is to leave. Anyhow. Even I was ready to leave the country, like by river, with my entire family if the Jason were not there.
With the amount of faith that he had to have in it is
Yeah.
strong because, like, already just from the story that you have heard, you all know much more about what was going on than he knew at any of this time. We were becoming very close, spending lots of time working together on his documents, working together on all sorts of things, working together on like trade craft stuff of like wiping his phone and all that. But what I couldn't tell him was there's anybody other than me. I couldn't tell him that. I couldn't tell him about any of the other families. I couldn't even really tell him like in any real way what I was planning because because we were also working with some other families that had come along into it, and if anybody and this was true for all of us who were working together. So like I wasn't talking to all the families. I was at this point by default running this thing, but everybody was responsible for communicating with their own families, and nobody could let them know that there were any other families because if they got captured, it would compromise the whole thing. But then the other reason was because we all had very good reason to believe that the Russians were supporting the Taliban and were listening to everything. And so we felt strongly that if we communicated anything specific over the phone, that the Taliban might hear it. And so I was having to ask him to do things in almost a coded way. I was able to tell him that, but none of the specifics really. So.
Yes, it was all like this. It's very hard to me to remember like what happened and what was the past. And now it looks like a very bad dream to me. But right now when I see a bright future, especially for my family and my kids, and still I'm thinking that, hey, I'm dreaming something. It's a dream. Yeah, and to like something, when the dreams come true, still you cannot believe it. And I'm really happy that my entire family is safe, happy, and especially for the kids, and especially for the girls, which there's no education for girls, even for the first class. They cannot go. They have no future. And they was asking me, hey, Dad, why you just brought us from India? Because I was out of my country even before that. Why you just brought us back here? And I have no answer for that, why? And today I have the answer for them that was my right decision. And I was the luckiest one. That's it.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good now, the decision making.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. So what did you think about the United States before you came? Like, what did you think you were coming into?
To be honest, like it's everyone's dream to at least come here to United States, live here, settle and everything. That's dream, but something called when your life is in danger and you have no other, you have no future in your own homeland and country. So you will not have like much dreams that's something like when your life is in danger, you will not think more about what will happen to you, or you cannot dream more about that. Like I say, yes, America will go there, but you will looking for somewhere to be safe. And my safe place was here.
When you
Because
showed up that night, it was like 10 o'clock at night in Kansas City, you got off the bus, and you and Jason embraced, and you said, we are safe now.
And I said, we did it.
Yeah.
Yep, we did it.
And you said, is this real life?
Yeah, is it a real life? And it was, I remember, even at that time, it was 10 p.m. Even that was not an official hour, but Hillary was there with Sabone. They were there and such a warm welcoming and other colleagues. Yeah, that was unbelievable for me.
Well, let's talk about this unbelievable Kansas City community. Jason, can you talk about the community here and how many people assisted in bringing and taking care of this family.
Yeah. Raise your hand if this is not your first time meeting the Rauffis. If it's not your first time meeting the Rauffis. I wasn't clear. If you've been with the Rauffis before, if you've hung out with them. And all those people who raised their hand are people who answered the call when Diana and I reached out and were like, hey, I mean, JVS had done like amazing, like JVS had set them up with an apartment and with a way to get food and also and medical and all that. But then we were also like, they need to go some places. Of course, they didn't have cars yet. So there were friends of ours who are here who organized a church fundraiser, and now each of the 3 families within the Rauffis have a car. There were Lee.
Somebody who sold them a car for $1.
Someone who sold them for a car for $1. That we had a text thread going that was the Rauffi pit crew, and and people would go and because they didn't have a car yet, they had to drive places. They all work at Commerce Bank because Lee Urban over here, like they got the jobs for themselves, but Lee made everybody sit down and listen and hear their story, and so. The Campbells have hosted all of us, including them, at their house so many times.
Yes.
And Chris is, when they went for job interviews, she took them and got them. I mean, the list is so long of stuff they're members of the zoo because of Chris. It's just, I can't even go through all the different people who have done stuff. Yeah. Which is amazing for them, but also. That thing when people come to town, they could be from Chicago, it doesn't matter. And you it's a Kansas City and you're like, okay, we're going to this place for barbecue and then we're gonna do this. You want them to love your town the way you do. Now imagine for 2 years you've been talking to them about coming to this place to live and they had other places to choose from. Now think about how much you wanted to show them. And so when all these people come out and are so kind to them, it makes you feel great about your town, and we just really needed the help too. So,
Raheem, anything you want to say about the Kansas City community?
Of course, yes. Actually, I'm the only family among the 73 families that I wanted to come to Kansas City. The plan for everyone was St. Louis. And still our documents are going to St. Louis. After that, GBS is receiving and send it to us. But I don't know why. As I said, from the starting, there was a feeling from my soul that the right place will be Kansas for you. Jason tried a lot, and he said, go, you are near to your own community. There's Afghan people. They have a lot of programs for Afghan people. I don't know why. That was the only thing that I was not agree with Jason. And
true, yeah.
Yeah, I was not agree with him. And I don't know why I was not agree. And again, I can say that was the right decision. And I said, no, Jason, whatever it is, I'm going to come to Kansas City, where you are living. He said, you will not have Afghan community here. I said, it's okay, we will find Afghan people very soon, but I'm going to come there. So yeah, now I'm happy that I thought that I left everything behind. We'll have no one else, only Kander. So he will be busy, his wife is busy. So we will manage anyhow. But on that time, I was wrong. I got a really big circle and a very new family. And that's more than my expectation. Chris Campbell's son, Lee, Kander's, their parents, Erin and Kimberly, her husband, and everyone, all of them, they became our new family members. And we never felt that. And also Christy and their family and all friends. And we never felt that we are alone. We have now, Raufis have a very big circle and a very big family. And it was my right decision.
It's growing
And I
a
am
little bit
happy.
bigger tonight. It's
Of
getting a
course,
little bit
yes.
bigger.
Of course, yes. Thank you.
The other day, our daughter Bella asked me. She said, "Daddy," she's 3. If she were like 17, this story would be weird. She's 3, and she said, "Daddy, are the Rauffi's Kanders?" And I was like, "Well," because we're together so much, and we always say they're part of the family, and I said, "Well, they're Rauffi's." I said, "But they're like Kanders, like they're part of our family." And she thinks about it for a minute. She goes, "They're Rauffi Kanders."
Do you want to tell them about the family hack?
The family hack? You tell them.
No,
You
you
tell
tell them.
So we have a thing we do in our family. It's family hug. Like, so when it happens often, like me and Diana, if one of the kids hugs us, if somebody
Anyone can call it at any time.
anyone can call family hug, and
Everybody runs in.
wherever you're sitting, the 4 of us, and like when their grandparents are there, sometimes it happens, but it's pretty much just the 4 of us or grandparents. And the other night, Raheem came over to the house, and he walks in, and Bella sees him. She calls him Raheem, and she yells Raheem, and she runs over and jumps into his arms, and then she yells family hug, and so I couldn't get through it. And so then it was a 5-person family hug with Raheem.
Yeah.
So they're very much part of our family.
He was shouting on, true, come fast. It's a family hack. That was very sweet, and I feel more like it was very relaxing time for me. Hey, still you have family. But it's true, like leaving your homeland, your town, where you grow up. That's not easy. It's okay that I'm happy for my family, that my entire family is safe here. But half of my heart is in my country with my people. There are thousands of people, more than thousands of people, that their life is in danger. They cannot go out. They cannot work because of their past, or because they work with US military bases or US-based organization. They cannot work. And still they have hope that their life should be safe, same like us. But right now there is no way. It's okay that I'm happy. Like for me it's 50-50. I'm thinking about my homeland. I'm missing my country. Even I stay here for years, but originally I'm from Afghanistan. And I'm proud about my country. I'm proud of my people. They are very brave. They are very honest. And they are very hardworking. Taliban, they gave us they just show a different face of our country, people, and Islam. Islam is not what Taliban is presenting to the world. They are not right. It's not right. You cannot judge Afghan people and Afghanistan by Taliban, what they are doing. Afghan people are really different people. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, last question, and this has been like one of the coolest parts of this. You're devout Muslims, we are Jewish, and you've been embraced by...
Not as devout.
Yeah.
I like to say
Jewish.
a devout Muslim and a casual Jew.
Yeah.
Like Diana says, we're Jewish.
And so many parts of the new family are Christian, and so many churches have put on fundraisers for you. I asked you, we had like a family, Shakib and I had the same birthday, and I asked you like, what do you think about all these different religions coming together? I would love for you to share.
Okay, so I can answer this, that in Islam it says Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, it means Allah, Almighty God. It's the Rabb of entire world. They didn't say that it's Alhamdulillah Rabbil Muslimin. It doesn't mean that it's only for Muslim. So in human, we say humanity. We respect that. We don't care about the religion. It's something different. We are honest, and for us, human is more important than their religion. And it makes no difference for us. So being honest, and that's everything. Like, give respect, you will get respect. That's it. This is in Islam. That's it.
Jason, anything to?
I agree.
I think one of the coolest things is I think a lot of times we're afraid of people who are other, and we don't get close enough to see how much we have in common, and our families are so aligned in our values and what we hope for and what we pray for, and it's been beautiful to see how similar our families are.
Of course, yes. Like, we are going to the same point, but different ways. This is the only point. The same thing taught for us, but only our ways are different. But our point is the same. Respect, help, being honest. Never like harm people. And that's it. It's in Christianity, it's in Islam, and it's in Jewish, and it's in Hindus, and everyone's. That's it. There's nothing in yours and in ours that kill the people, kill anyone. That's it. And what they are presenting about Afghan people and Islam, that's wrong. I completely against that.
Did you say that was the last question? I'm going to make you answer one.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I think you should, since this is a JVS event, I think you should talk about how you experienced that first night that they were here.
I came over to the U.S. in 1989. I was 8 years old, and we got an apartment from JVS that was of the similar dimensions as the Rauffi apartment, so it was a real trip for me, and their family is filled with 8-year-olds.
8-year-old little girls.
Yeah, and it's been a real re-experiencing for me, but it's amazing 35 years later that this organization is still helping people in the same way, and we dream about what these kids will become, and that they get to dream, and that they have visions of the future, and we're so grateful that there's an organization in our community that has been working so hard for so many generations to make that happen.
Of course, yes.
Lauren, are you coming up? Yeah, Lauren's going to come and take some concluding thoughts, but she doesn't know this. We feel so strongly about JVS, and a lot of you are introduced to them right now. We are hoping that this story encourages you to get involved and to donate and to meet other amazing families. The Kanders brought a check for $1,000 for JVS to maybe start a stampede. They did so much for my family and my new family, and they're just in the business of changing lives and making dreams come true, so thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Would you all join me in thanking Raheem and Jason and Diana one more time?
Thank you.
Hashtag, I'm not crying, you're crying. Raheem, might I ask your family to stand so that we could see your beautiful family and get to welcome them officially?
Thank
My
you.
name's Lauren Weinhold, and I have the privilege of being the Chief External Affairs Officer at JVS, which means that I get to be a part of events like this. It is my honor to recognize lots of people tonight, but I want to start by recognizing two individuals who were integral in the welcome that the Rauffi family received. We have two Afghan colleagues who are with us this evening. I would like for them to stand. Sabawoon Fakiri. Sabawoon was at the apartment when the bus showed up and walked alongside the family as their case manager. And the other individual who played an integral role in the family's success is Momin Rauffi. Momin, would you stand, please? Momin oversees our workforce development at JVS and played an integral role in helping the Rauffi family find and secure employment. So thank you, Momin. We appreciate you. It's also a huge privilege to get to thank some of the people who made tonight possible. I want to give a special shout out to Seyfarth Law and Kimberly McLean, who were very generous sponsors. I want to thank Tim Riemann, Jason and Andrea Krakow, the Kansas City Chamber and welcoming Casey and Greg Valdivino for hosting this evening, and then an incredibly generous anonymous donor. I don't know about you, but I am so incredibly proud to be a Kansas Citian in this moment. The way that our community has rallied support for and welcomed families like the Rauffis for 75 years is truly inspirational. Our community is richer because the Rauffis now call Kansas City home. I am better because the Rauffis are here. Your life is enriched because the Rauffis are your neighbors. It is our hope that you leave here this evening inspired, maybe eager to learn more, and most importantly, challenged to join us in this work. While you may not charter a plane or stage a fake wedding, there are things that you can do. You can tell a friend about something you learned tonight. You can follow JVS on social media. You can think of JVS the next time you're cleaning out your closet or you're thinking of retiring that dining room set. Please know that those goods will go to the thousands of families that we welcome. And maybe you'll be called to volunteer with us and set up a home for a newly arrived refugee family. At the JVS table in the foyer, you're going to find a myriad of ways to stay or get engaged. Sign up for our newsletter if you're not already receiving it. Grab a card to make a donation to support this work, and pick up a save the date for JVS's annual fundraiser Global Table that is happening on May 2nd of this year. As Hillary mentioned earlier, 2024 marks JVS's 75th anniversary, and with your support that you have demonstrated here this evening, JVS will most surely continue to welcome and walk alongside refugees, immigrants, and anyone in search of safety and a better life for the next 75 years. Thank you all.